Hi there, Doc. So it's nice to see that you're writing essays for us. Well done. Let's take a look at this first one, which is about schools being more entertaining. Here's what you wrote. It is sometimes argued that schools should mainly focus, without the ED, on education, regardless of how content is delivered. While this could be true to a certain extent, I personally believe more entertainment elements should be incorporated in schools so teachers can capture the attention of students and make the lessons more memorable. All right, very nice. Good job. And I liked that you realized that and you address the fact that it's a little more complicated than just a yes or a no. So good. Let's see. The attention span of students is, because it's attention span is our noun here, and here you're just describing whose attention span, but the attention span of students is normally short due to boring content, singular, that is being taught in schools. Most schools utilize textbooks with an S as their teaching materials, which are often largely covered in texts and charts with little interesting illustrative images. As a result, students are easily distracted by other outside factors such as funny pictures with an S on social media, no S, or notifications constantly popping up on their phone. For example, a report from Washington University showed that concentrating ability. It's not really a totally natural expression here. Let's think about it for a second. The ability to concentrate, or how about this, just concentration would be even better, showed that the concentration of primary school students decreased by 71% when they transited from, transitioned is the word you want, transitioned from preschools with interactive instruction materials to primary schools with books full of texts and numbers. Hence, it is crucial to make the learning resources more entertaining to enhance students' engagement. Okay, so let's move on. Lessons are more memorable with compelling content, again singular here, including animation and colorful characters. These elements help create a story and flow of developments for the lesson, allowing the brain to store the information more effectively. This will enable students, without the two, to remember and recall materials for a longer period, especially after the point of examination in the course. A good example of this was recent research, get rid of A, from Cambridge University, showing that students were able to recollect minor details of a history lesson after 7 years if the session was in the form of a movie, compared to 3 months if the same was demonstrated via texts only. As a result, making lessons with an S more entertaining enables students to remember them longer and thus have the opportunity to make use of it in more settings. Okay, nice. Okay, in conclusion, I agree that entertainment elements, you could have said entertaining, in education are beneficial for students by increasing their engagement and making the lessons much more memorable. It is predicted that education providers and publishers will incorporate, without the ing, to should be E here, more compelling and enjoyable content, no S, in the future. All right, this is a great first essay, Doc. Really, it's lovely. I mean, you've used the template really nicely. You had some great support. It was part of it was kind of abstract, like you didn't really tell us much here about entertaining elements. Here you talked a little bit more, so you're a little more specific about what you're referring to. I have one little concern here. Take a look at this. You did say that it was true to some extent that the focus should be on education. You didn't really cover that, okay? You didn't talk about that area at all, and I really think you should have, because you cared enough about it in your to mention it in your introduction. So I think maybe you could have mentioned the importance of education as education, but just saying that, yeah, great, education is important, but just deliver it better. So even if you had said something like that, but just kind of dealt with this issue a little more, because what's really happening? Your introduction is kind of a blueprint for your essay. So the examiner is getting an idea here, not only about your position, but really what you're going to talk about in the rest of your essay. So when you mention something like this idea of, well, this could be true to a certain extent, you give the examiner the idea that this is something you're going to cover more fully, okay, in more detail. Okay. All right. So this was great, though, in general. For your first essay, I thought it was fantastic. So great job. Now let's take a look at the second one here. Okay. This is about doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Most parents want their children to develop a diverse range of skills by exposing the toddler to many interesting activities beyond reading. I fully agree with this notion because while learning from a textbook is great, real-life peer interactions and outdoor activities are essential to a child's development and learning journey. Lovely. Enjoyable activities such as interaction with peers can stimulate the development of the child's brain. This is because while reading is one-way learning, get rid of this A, having an interchange with friends opens the channel for absorbing the information from multiple mechanisms. These can range from talking to each other to exchange views to demonstrating examples in the form of presentations or drawings. For example, a study from Singapore Family Foundation showed that having a breakout session for peer interaction in preschool class could boost the new information absorption rate by 72%. Therefore, creating an environment where children can interact with each other helps accelerate the learning journey. All right, this is wonderful. You have so much nice vocabulary here that it was really very enjoyable to read. I mean, multiple mechanisms, exchange views, a breakout session, I mean, new information absorption rate. So all of this is really, really lovely, high-level vocabulary. So well done. My one question to you is, did you really talk about skills development? Okay, because that's what this is asking you to talk about, skills development and more creativity. So you're talking essentially about, what are you talking about? Just absorption rate of information. But I don't know that you necessarily talked about skills. So this was so nicely written that I think an examiner looking at this might say, well, you know what? It's a detail because it's so nicely written that it doesn't really matter. But the truth is that you didn't really talk about skills. Okay? And not that I could see. I mean, is it really a skill to absorb information faster? Maybe it is. I mean, you could argue that too, I suppose. Anyway, let's put a question mark here and let's take a look at the second paragraph. Outdoor activities are also good ways that allow children to reflect on what they have read in books. Children will better appreciate and consume the content in books if they have the opportunity to interact with things in real life, such as trees, flowers, animals, weather, singular, etc. I'm not a fan of etc. Honestly, I feel like it's either important enough to mention or don't mention it, because etc. is kind of like, oh, well, there's more stuff I can mention, but I'm just not going to. Now, a way that is like etc., but it sounds a lot better, is including. So, in real things in real life, including trees, flowers, animals, and weather. That would have been okay. Almost all preschools and primary schools nowadays incorporate outdoor trips to learn to local parks, S, or zoos, S. Careful here in syllabus. Try it again. Almost all preschools and primary schools nowadays incorporate outdoor trips in the syllabus to, yeah, it's a little awkward. Let's see. Almost all preschools and primary schools nowadays, I guess you could have said incorporate into the syllabus outdoor trips to local parks or zoos. Maybe that would be good. To enhance their children's, '(s), learning abilities and outcomes. This is particularly the case after a widespread report from Oxford University in 2001, highlighting 59% higher scores of Finnish children compared to toddlers in the United Kingdom due to the former's focus on out-of-classroom learning. Hence, the combination of outdoor activities with textbook study will help develop children's skills and learning results. Okay? In conclusion, reading is good, but it cannot be replaced by peer interactions and outdoor activities, which will help children to develop better learning outcomes and skills. This has been the ongoing trend in developed countries, and fellow developing countries are following the same. Okay, now, there are a couple things I want to talk to you about in this essay. First of all, this. Good is a word that I really don't like seeing in essays. For the same reason I don't like seeing etc. It's just imprecise. It's not specific. It doesn't really tell us a lot. And quite frankly, when you're trying to get a high grade in IELTS, you don't want to see a word like good. There's so many other words that you could have used here. So reading is effective. Reading is important. Reading is crucial to development. Or, you know, there's so many words you could have said, all right, that are far more precise here. There's certain words, I mean, good, bad, nice, big, small. Really, let's avoid them in IELTS because you are trying to show your range here of vocabulary, which you certainly have done, but it's, I mean, like I said, it's just not a particularly precise word. So that's one thing. But now let's talk about the thing here that is really more important, and that's regarding task achievement. Take a look at the prompt again. It says, doing an enjoyable activity with a child can develop better skills and more creativity. All right, so you did a good comparison of reading. All right, you kept that throughout the task, and that was good because some people don't do it. They forget to mention reading at all. And we are comparing these activities to reading. And here you talked about skills. I told you that I had a question mark about it because you talked about learning rate, okay? But again, it could be argued whether that's a skill or not. And here you just talked about reflection, okay, which again I'm going to ask you, is this a skill? But more importantly, where did you cover this? Okay, so this is a great opportunity to talk about how important it is to really, really analyze the question in these tasks and make sure that you are answering exactly what they're asking you and not kind of what they're asking you. Okay, so when they're asking you to talk about better skills, it is absolutely critical that you're talking about skills. Okay, what kind of skills? There are countless skills that one can develop. So it's extremely important to talk about those skills. And since they separated creativity from those skills, that you need to decipher as them telling you, okay, we think creativity is important enough that it deserves its own amount of time. I would venture to say even its own paragraph. Okay, so you need to talk about skills, specifically skills here. I mean, it could be anything. It could be like hand-eye coordination. It could be motor skills. It could be vocabulary ability. I mean, it could be so many things that you could talk about for skills. And then for creativity, again, I mean, you could talk about a ton of things, like the ability to produce short stories, the ability to, think out of the box and come up with problem solving, and there's so many things you could say here. But those are issues you needed to talk about in this essay in order for it to be considered on topic, and of course that will affect the score you will get in task achievement, okay? However, I do want to tell you that I thought your writing was great. I mean, you're starting off at a really, really wonderful point here, all right? Certainly at a high level of writing, so that's a great place to be. What we're going to work on a little bit is some of these little grammatical mistakes you keep making, like the S's and just remembering that after modal verbs, we don't conjugate the verb. So it's just the bare infinitive of the verb. That's something I saw you doing a lot. So I want you to kind of watch out for those things, as well as little things like prepositions. So little grammatical mistakes, but nothing really serious. But do watch out for them and try to correct them. And then let's also work on task achievement, because that's going to be something we're going to have to work on together. Okay? So what you need to do now is correct these essays based on this video. And also create an error correction list where you write the errors and next to each error what the correct version is. Just add to that list with every correction you get back from us. And then the third thing you need to do is write a new set of essays. Okay? Send all of these 3 things back to us together in the next day or so you can keep up your momentum, keep up your progress. And that's it. So I'll wait for your next set of essays. I'm looking forward to them. So good luck.